What are 10 games that left you pleasantly surprised? Welcome, I'm Fly and today I'm going to list 10 games that left me positively surprised when I played them. You know, the kind of games that make you go, huh, I was not expecting that. This is actually good. You know how sometimes you watch a playthrough, a review, or a how to play video and you know from the get-go what you're getting into. I like this and that and that, and it's no surprise it's going to be a good game for you. But that's not what this is about. Some of the games here I didn't know at all, others I had heard about but never did much digging around them. So without further ado, let's go. You've probably played this game before. This is a very light, small co-op card game where you're making fireworks. It's Hanabi. If you don't know this game like I didn't, essentially you're playing several colored cards on the table in an ascending order. And that's all well and good, but the thing is, your cards are facing away from you, like this. So you know what everybody else has, but you don't know your hands. And the first time I saw this I was like, what? That's a thing? Wow. I'm not sure, but I think this was the first game of this genre. And of course the game goes a little deeper than just playing cards blindly and hope for the best. This next game is an awesome engine/device building game. Literally. It's Gizmos. This is a light Euro game. In this game you're collecting energy in the form of marbles you take from this dispenser thingy, and then using them to build these contraptions to score points. Not only that, the stuff you build also upgrades your actions by modifying and manipulating what they do. So from there on, this action allows me to do this, which allows me to do that, and that, and that, and that. This is one of those games I had heard about, but wasn't sure I wanted to play. It is not a looker. Well, the marbles are pretty. This next one was the game that got me into loving Garphill games. It is Architects of the West Kingdom. This is a midweight worker placement Euro game. You know how worker placement games typically go. You start with a couple of workers and throughout the game you might have a chance to unlock a few more. Well, that's not the case here. In this game you start with a ton of workers. And, as usual, on your turn, you're assigning one of your workers to a space on the board, and the spaces will get crowded if left unchecked. Because the more workers you have on a given space, the better the action becomes. But the other players will keep an eye on you, and your workers might get arrested if you're not careful. This game was a breath of fresh air. I love everything about it. The next game is Coimbra. This is a midweight Euro game in which you're traveling across a map to increase influence on the various regions. Okay, so nobody really knows what the theme of the game is, it doesn't matter anyway, so the thing that surprised me here is the dice system. At the beginning of every round, you're rolling a bunch of colored dice to a common pool. So you pick a die, assign it to an action space, and then you resolve the action spaces from highest to lowest by buying cards. So if you pick a high value die, you're making sure you go first in picking the cards. But you also have to pay more for it. On the other hand, if you had picked a low value die, you won't pay as much, but you're getting the leftovers, if any at all. And after that you get all your dice back to activate benefits on the various colored tracks. And this was the first time I saw dice being used in a lot of ways. That made me happy. This next game I backed on Kickstarter because I liked the theme. I knew nothing of how the game worked until I actually got to play it. It is The Great Wall. This is a heavy Euro where you're building and at the same time defending the Great Wall from the invaders. It almost sounds like a co-op game because you're all in this together. Well, almost, because the player who contributes the most wins the game. So this is a worker placement game where each spot on the board has a fixed number of workers that can be placed there by any number of players. The more workers you spend on it, the stronger the action gets. But the thing is, you and everyone else there can only get to do the action when the spot completely fills up. And then you get your workers back. So you want to work in town to get resources to help build the wall and recruit more people to your army to fend off the invaders. I honestly didn't expect much from this game, but it was a great surprise. This is another game I didn't know, someone put it on the table and I was voluntarily coerced to play. And I'm glad I did. It is Yokohama. This is a midweight Euro sandbox style game where you are a merchant and you want to develop your business and export goods to other countries. So on your turn you place a couple of workers on a single region or 3 workers in 3 different regions. And then you move your boss meeple thingy along somewhere you have workers and do that region action. The action's strength depends on how many pieces you have there. Huh, that's so interesting and clever. Yeah, you'll be mainly collecting resources and trading them for points, but there are other paths to victory. And all these elements make for a great game. This next one is an oldie but goodie. I mean, the game's not that old, it just looks old. Anyway, it is Orleans. This is a mid-weight Euro bag building game set in medieval France, where you have a bunch of characters in the form of chips, in which you throw into a bag, mix them up, and then every round you're pulling a few of them from the bag, and that's what you have to work with for that round. And then you'll assign those characters to various spots on the board to perform actions. So the hook here is bag building. Now there's quite a few games that do the pulling chips out of a bag thingy, but back then, and this is just like a deck building game, but with a bag. This game gives a really good feeling, and there's hardly anyone who's going to dislike this. This is a very new game, and it would have made my top 10 heavy games list had I played it before. It is Carnegie. This is a heavy Euro game based on the life of Andrew Carnegie. He was a sort of a philanthropist, he was a very wealthy man who did a lot of good things for society. So in this game you're doing a little bit of everything. Essentially, you have a company, you want to recruit and manage employees, you're developing your business, you want to move up tracks to gain income, you're building buildings on main boards to make routes across the country. Again, you're doing a lot of stuff. But what's great here is that every round there's an active player who picks an action and a location. And then everyone does that. So you're always doing something and there's pretty much no downtime. I love it when games do that. Number 2 is a well-known, highly regarded game. It is Dune Imperium. You know when you play an IP-based game and everyone and everything looks very generic to you because you know nothing about its universe? Well, that's what I felt like. Now, putting the theme aside, this is a mid-weight Euro-y worker placement / deck building game where you have a couple of workers and a bunch of cards. And on your turn, you're playing a card and placing a worker, and the cards you don't play, you can use them as currency to buy new cards. And suddenly, there's a lot I like about this game. It has two of the main mechanisms that I love, it has just the right amount of conflict for me, and it has that racing feel that I adore. Truly a fantastic game. And finally, number 1 is a game I had heard about before, it certainly got a lot of buzz around it, and it's still doing really well. When I first learned what the theme was, I said, boring. Then someone put it on the table and I said, fine, I'll play it just to see what the fuss is all about. It is Obsession. That's right, Downton Abbey. In this game you're the head of an upper-class family. You have your estate and a few servants, and now it's up to you to entertain your family members and guests by using your house's features. And as you're welcoming more people into your estate, you might want to upgrade your facilities and hire more servants to entertain some of the needier guests. And by doing so, you're slowly building up your reputation and wealth. Amazing game. Alright folks, that's it for now, thank you so much for watching and until next time.